President Kennedy and Governor John Connally have been cut down by assassins' bullets in downtown Dallas.
A local reporter remembers that day in history.
A cyber prank lesson. Be careful what you post online. We'll explain.
And I-35 construction is delayed. We have the details.
Thanks for joining us on ntTV Nightly News. I'm Corinne Hairston.
And I'm Jeremy Taub. Tonight, if you drive on I-35 in the Denton area, you can breathe a small sigh of relief, at least for now. You won't have to deal with construction on Interstate 35 for the rest of the year, at least not on the main lanes of 35. While the stretch of Interstate 35 around Denton is considered one of the worst stretches of road in Texas, there is still a lot to be done before they begin construction. Tonight, our own Derica Jackson is live over I-35 with more about the plans. Derica, what can you tell us about what's going on out there?
Well, Jeremy, we won't see any major work on the interstate until January, but crews have a lot to do in the meantime. Work is continuing on the frontage roads to prepare them for the extra strain they'll see when the lanes of I-35 are closed for repaving. Shrubs and trees are being cleared where necessary before road work can begin. Most of this prep work will need to be completed before we see any real work begin. Rest assured, we will be seeing roadwork signs for a long time. In fact, predictions are that mid-2017 is the expected date for completion. Corinne, back to you.
Thanks, Derica. A major problem tonight for UNT libraries, a lack of money. The university library system will have to cut $1.7 million from its cost on a yearly basis. The money is needed to pay benefits for library employees. But when word of the cuts broke last week, a social media outcry developed. A Facebook page called Save Our Libraries was created. UNT Provost Dr. Warren Berggren says the discussion about library funding is an ongoing one and the libraries are not closing. Berggren says there has been no decision when the budget tightening will occur. Well, Jeremy, it was a beautiful day today, though it was a little windy for me. I needed to keep my hair down.
Yeah, well, we don't want to mess up your hair, Corinne.
Never that.
Maybe tonight, Loopy can tell us what the outlook's going to be. Loopy?
Well, if you're planning on going out tonight, the wind has dropped in speed, but it is going to get chilly progressively tonight. Now, currently, it's 63 degrees. Lucky for you, Corinne, it only feels like 63 degrees, with our wind coming from the southeast at 12 miles per hour. Our current humidity is at 40%. Now, for later on tonight, we can expect the temperature to drop down about 10 degrees to 63, with winds coming from the southeast at 9 miles per hour. Now, for those early risers tomorrow, at about 8 a.m., it's going to be 50 degrees, with winds coming from the southeast at 11 miles per hour. Now stay tuned later on in the broadcast for my full weather outlook. Jeremy, Corinne, back to you guys.
Thanks, Loopy. A controversial game at the University of Texas has been canceled tonight after sparking national outrage on social media. The game, called Catch an Illegal Immigrant, was to take place tomorrow on campus, but protesters had other ideas. ntTV's Paul Brumfeld has the story.
Questions surrounding immigration have swept through the Texas universities. After having to cancel their event, the UT chapter of Young Conservatives of Texas have been the talk among the Austin campus. Chairman Lorenzo Garcia of the organization has said that the purpose of the event was to spark campus-wide discussions about the issue of illegal immigration. UT President Bill Powers quickly denounced the event, saying it was completely out of line. Criticism soon fell upon the chapter as they took a beating on social media, having users calling them disgraces to society. Garcia came back in a final statement to the university, giving hope for future discussions over the issue of immigration. As for the university, President Powers has stated that he wants the chapter to find more respectful ways to tackle the issue. I'm Paul Brumfield for ntTV News.
'Tis the season of giving. Denton's very own Mayor Mark Burrows will be putting the first dollar in a Salvation Army Red Kettle in Denton for the upcoming Christmas season. The Red Kettle campaign helps the Salvation Army continue to provide programs and services to those in need in the Denton area. They are hoping to raise $127,000 through donations this year.
Well, it's not the holidays until you see those red kettles in front of the malls, right?
Exactly. I always like to do my part and put just a little bit of what I can in there.
That's a good thing.
Coming up, the University of North Texas offers students a yummy holiday deal.
And a former Dallas reporter reflects on the JFK assassination. Stay with us. Tonight, the investigation continues into the shooting death of a student at Virginia's Liberty University. The student was shot and killed about 4 a.m. Authorities say a campus police officer is the key suspect. There was a reported fight in a women's dormitory room, followed by the shooting. The victim's name has not yet been released, and it was unclear if the student was armed.
"50 years ago on a crowded street in Dallas, the assassination of President John F. Kennedy shocked the world. And now, as the city and the nation prepares for the anniversary on Friday, we look back on that day when everything changed.
50 years later, people still come every day, point to the 6th floor window, stand on the grassy knoll, imagining what that day was like. President John F. Kennedy and First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy driving by, smiling. They looked down from the school book depository building, imagining what Lee Harvey Oswald saw. The moment gunfire exploded, the piercing echoes through Dealey Plaza.
Does it amaze me that people come to Dealey Plaza 24/7, scratching their heads and pointing and walking around? No, not at all. The Kennedy assassination story is modern folklore now. People just aren't satisfied with the official story that one man did all that damage, not only to a person, but to a country and to the world.
The official story, of course, is that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone.
Could he have survived this first wound?
Ronald Jones was one of the emergency room doctors who tried to save President Kennedy and vividly remembers the chaotic moments in the packed operating room of Parkland Hospital.
We knew we were working on the president. We were anxious, we were excited, we were doing what we would do in the care of a normal trauma patient, and yet here was the President of the United States. Nobody knew he was dead.
Dr. Jones says the first thing he noticed was a wound on the president's neck.
Initial impression was that this is an entrance wound and this is an exit wound up here. We had no information as to how he was shot, with what was he shot, who shot him. We had no information whatsoever. We had not seen the Zapruder film.
Later on, the Warren Commission report would determine that neck wound was where the so-called magic bullet exited Kennedy's body before striking Texas Governor John Connally.
This could have been an entrance wound or an exit wound. And I don't know if anything will ever come up. It's been 50 years and nothing has surfaced yet that would indicate that there was a second shooter. Certainly that possibility exists, but right now I would accept the Warren Commission report.
It's a fairy tale. It didn't happen. No bullet went through both men.
To conspiracy theorists like Robert Groden, the single bullet theory is one of many problems with the official story.
So the X there in the middle of the road, you put that down there?
Yeah. I put that down there 19 years ago.
Robert Groden grew up in New York and moved to Dallas almost 20 years ago, proving the Kennedy assassination conspiracy is his life's mission. You can find him on the grassy knoll every weekend arguing his case.
Do people come out here and say, man, you're just crazy?
Nobody says that.
Nobody?
Nobody. I believe there was this, I guess, amalgamation between the mob and and elements within the CIA.
All right, so the CIA and the mob working together is the theory that somehow...
Most people that really know the case are somewhere in that ballpark.
That is the legacy that still hangs over Dealey Plaza, one of the most tragic events of the 20th century, still shrouded for many in mystery. Ed Lavandera, CNN, Dallas.
Almost 50 years later, we are getting an inside look at what it was like to cover this terrible day in American history. ntTV's Aaron Green spoke with Bert Shipp, the former assistant news director at WFAA. He was there reporting on the events as they unfolded, and tonight we hear his story.
Around the hips, keeping that straight, sleek look that it should have, and very often you'll find a zipper hidden in the arm.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You'll excuse the fact that I'm out of breath, but about 10 or 15 minutes ago, a tragic thing, from all indications at this point, has happened in the city of Dallas. Let me quote to you this. and you'll excuse me if I am out of breath. A bulletin. This is from the United Press from Dallas. President Kennedy and Governor John Connally have been cut down by assassins' bullets in downtown Dallas.
Organized confusion is what I'm standing for right now. That it's kind of the way the day was when Kennedy was assassinated. I go back to the newsroom from Market Hall, and I run into organized confusion.
Former WFAA Assistant News Director Bert Shipp was one of the first to report on the assassination of President Kennedy. With news that would change the world, Shipp rushed back to the newsroom to report on what he knew.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce to you the chief cameraman and assistant news director of WFAA Television. This is Bert Shipp. Bert, we have brought the people pretty much up to date.
Somebody said, how did you manage to get the newsroom in shape to cover a Kennedy assassination as it was? And they said, no, I think what happened is we'd been preparing for it all of our lives, but we just didn't know it until the big day. And we wrote it as we went along. Every time we had a correction to make, we'd make a correction, and every time we found that we were on the right track, we said, let's go this way. And it doesn't make a lot of sense, but you stick with what you know and know with what you got. And that's what we did. We stayed with what we knew, and so often that we run across a situation that I don't know how to explain it, but we would stay with what we knew. We didn't get too fancy, because there wasn't anything fancy about it, assassination.
Would you tell them exactly what you know as of this point?
Well, Jay, I was standing at the Trade Mart waiting his arrival there. All of a sudden, we saw them approaching. They didn't slow down. As a matter of fact, they were going 70 or 80 miles an hour past us. Everybody was unknowingly, didn't know what happened there at the Trade Mart. And then I jumped in a police car and went to Parkland. When I got there, I found that nobody knew too much about where he was hit, but they knew that the president was shot in the head.
And tomorrow night, our interview with Bert Shipp continues as he remembers the events after the death of President Kennedy. Understanding and remembering the events of 50 years ago is just part of what Denton libraries are doing this week. Examples of pictures, newspapers, books, and memorabilia from people associated with the events in Dallas are on display. You can see them at several Denton libraries. Librarian Carmen Grant remembers the day and her impressions as a young child.
During that time period, it was just chaos. As a little child, that's what I remember. Chaos, people crying, sadness, real deep sadness. So this is a way for them to understand what happened and why people still feel the way they do. So it's just a kind of window into history.
The library displays are more than just memories. Grant says these are teaching tools for children, helping them understand President Kennedy's place in our history.
The more I look back, I see that he, as a president, guided our country forward. He is the one that led us into the space age. So I would like people to see the good that he did for our country.
And one final JFK note, the X that marks the location where the president was shot on Elm Street is gone. It was paved over by the city, and it seems the roadway is so rough that officials felt it was a hazard. But the mystery is who put the X on the road to begin with. The city says it didn't, and no other group has claimed responsibility, so it remains to be seen if the X reappears.
77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation. 150 years ago today, Abraham Lincoln made the Gettysburg Address on a cold battlefield and touched a nation at war. Thousands gathered for a reenactment of the event in Pennsylvania. And while Lincoln said, "The world will little note nor long remember what we say here," his speech would become one of the most quoted in history. You know, Jeremy, Lincoln is one of my favorite presidents.
Me too, and it's been quite a presidential week this week. Yes. Loopy, do you know what it's going to look like in the weather for this presidential week?
Now, we're expecting temperatures to stay in about 70 degrees for the rest of tonight. Now, as you can see, our current conditions are currently at about 70 degrees around North Texas. Now, for tomorrow, we can expect temperatures to stay not green, but we can expect temperatures to stay at about the same conditions, with 68 being the coldest in Greensville at 68, and the highest being in Denton and Wichita Falls right around the 70s. Now, for our 5-day outlook, we can expect temperatures to drop significantly into the evenings. Now, for tomorrow, we can expect temperatures at a high at 70 degrees with a low at 60. Temperatures are not going to start dropping significantly until the weekend, though, with temperatures into the lower 30s as we hit the evenings. Now, we are definitely dropping in temperature here in North Texas, but we definitely have it easy compared to the families up north, the hundreds of families that have endured the dozens of tornadoes that have been happening in the past couple of weeks. Corinne, I know you guys have more about that story.
That's right, Loopy. Unfortunately, the weather in Washington, Illinois hasn't been great. Hundreds of families in the Midwest are slowly starting the long road to recovery. After 76 reported tornadoes destroyed everything they had, residents are trying to find ways to rebuild their lives. Nearly 400 homes in Washington, Illinois alone were destroyed by the storm. Early this morning, more than 576,000 people in Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan were still left without power.
Well, I hope they get all that cleaned up, but when we return, get your game on with fellow Mean Green students.
And if you hadn't had your cute fix for the day, you don't want to miss our last story. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Now, Jeremy, I hope you're careful about what you're posting on Twitter, and because you never know who could be watching or, watching out for you.
That's true, especially employers, but it's one thing to watch out for that. But this week's Eagle Tech, Matthew Granado shows us how easy it is for someone to be stalked on Twitter.
Thanks, Jeremy. Comedian Jack Vale does take a humorous approach to Twitter stalking, but that doesn't mean his video isn't a cautionary tale. Also on this week's Eagle Tech, check out a robot that never loses at rock, paper, scissors, and see how the iPad mini fares in a technology shootout.
Screen testers from DisplayMate.com performed a mobile display technology shootout between the Amazon Kindle Fire HD, Google Nexus 7, and the new iPad mini. In the field of small tablets, the iPad mini's display quality finishes well behind its counterparts. According to the series of tests, the iPad mini has a lower screen resolution and a lower range of colors. DisplayMate.com's review repeatedly refers to the iPad mini as having significant competitive shortfalls in various display categories that include screen reflectance. A lab in Tokyo has developed a robot that wins 100% of rock, paper, scissors matches against humans. The robot has a high-speed vision system that recognizes hand motion in only a millisecond. And who knows, this could put us on our way to Skynet taking over humanity, just like in the Terminator movies. Comedian Jack Vale decided to carry out a social media experiment that can be seen on his YouTube page. He stalked people on Twitter via geotagging. He then confronted them with personal details that he had no business knowing. In addition to prospective employers and colleges, definitely add stalkers to the list of reasons why social media should be used with caution.
Or Blanca, is that, how did I? Blanca. It's what? Blanca. Blanca. Blanca, okay. Is that, your last name starts with a K? Crow. No, it's just. Oh no, it was just a little prank, a hidden camera prank.
Now, if you value your privacy, you should maybe avoid geotagging and Foursquare. I mean, last week I Instagrammed myself eating at Lone Star Attitude, and Jeremy showed up 15 minutes later. That could just be a coincidence, I don't know, but Corinne, Jeremy, back to you.
Well, Matthew, I'm going to have to change where I'm eating now, but this next story might help me out. Save some time and support a good cause this holiday season with UNT's Thanksgiving to Go. The UNT Dining Services is providing meals that serve 6 to 8 people and only cost $55. 25% of the profits will benefit the organization Stop Hunger Now. Some of the dinner items include turkey, mashed potatoes, and seasoned green beans, all of which can be purchased a la carte. And if you're looking for a fun time before Thanksgiving, check out the Pole Rec Center tonight for game night, hosted by the Transfer Center. Come on out and play some board games, video games, and just blow off some steam before finals roll around. Well, Corinne, if you haven't had enough games, I know Tristan Martinez has some more game updates for us, right?
Well, you know me, I just can't get enough, especially of that mean green. Tristan, what sports updates do you have?
Thanks, guys. Coming up, I'll be updating you on how the Mavericks played last night and how our own mean green teams are doing. Stay tuned. The Dallas Mavericks were back home last night to face the Philadelphia 76ers. The Sixers were without rookie sensation Michael Carter-Williams, and that helped the Mavs come away with a 97-94 win. Monte Ellis had 24 points and 10 assists, and Sean Marion and Dirk Nowitzki each had 20 points as well. The Mavs are now 7-4 in the season and play Houston Rockets tomorrow night. Now, the Mean Green men's basketball team is taking an extended trip to the Northwest this week. They're heading to Portland, Oregon to play 3 games during the Coaches vs. Cancer Classic. They open their West Coast play on Thursday against Columbia and finish on Friday and Saturday against Idaho and Portland. The Mean Green will be back home next week for a game against Incarnate Word. On to football. The Mean Green football team had a bye this week, but they will be back at home on Saturday for a senior day. Head coach Dan McCarney spoke about the success they have had this season and this weekend's opponent.
We know we're going to a bowl game. We know we've accomplished that, but we're trying to go for bigger and better and more things that are out there, knowing that we've got a really, really well-coached football team and a successful team and a team that's really on a roll right now that's coming in here Saturdays.
Saturday will more than likely be the last time to see the Mean Green in Denton this season. Kickoff will be at 2:30. Now, it seems like this year has been full of Mean Green players and teams earning awards, and the volleyball team added some today. Krista Flack and Carney Dillard were named to the Conference USA team, and freshman Amy Hennard was named to the Conference All-Freshman team. These players and the rest of the Mean Green will start postseason play on Thursday against FAU at 2 p.m. That's it for sports. Jeremy, Corinne, back to you.
Thanks, Tristan. 2 Sumatran tiger cubs brought a lot of attention to the National Zoo today, and the cuteness might just make your heart melt. Sukasita and Bandar were born back in August, but made their first public appearance after passing their swim test. And with that much cuteness, the cubs may soon take over the internet. How cute is that? I want a little cub.
Yeah, really adorable.
Thanks for watching ntTV Nightly News.
Join us again tomorrow night at 6 here on North Texas Television.